Hi there. This one I'm recording for someone who shall remain anonymous. So just consider that that's who's looking out at you here is anonymous. Here we go. It is called Wake Up, Idiot Savant, Psychic Magician for Sale or Rent. Very creative. Wake up. The system has us in a trance, and that system is our cocoon. The shell or husk of the oat is rotting in the soil. Burned by the sun, it decomposes with a horrible smell to it. We fear it. We depend on it. We cannot remember it not being there. But we all recall when it was a comfortable and nice sort of set of illusions it cast. The system has turned into a liquefied, barely cohesive mass of slowly disintegrating components. The media is beginning to look increasingly foolish and transparent. The leaps of logic become apparent in the mind control drama. The being or life within the cocoon or shell is melting like the infamous witch within The Wizard of Oz. It is the system's shell repressing the beings within it that now pushes at it from all sides. It seems long since broken. It now has many holes in it. It's becoming more web-like and less brick wall-like all the time. Cliff High of Webbot fame pointed the way, maybe on purpose, maybe by accident. It's hard to tell with linguists. He realized at one point that a force he refers to as the powers that be chose a battle with him, and that his field of battle was specific to his abilities, life path, and so on. The great void from where all things plunk stuff here stuck Cliff there and me here. I believe it good sense to assume there is a reason for that and work both backwards and forwards with it. I am not a warrior. Perhaps he is. I am an observer of the reality. I read the cards as I choose to. I see the plays and hear people's tales and repeat from their ether the things which hold them in trance, acting as the dissolving agent, eating the masks and echoes as I go. I am no longer unconscious of this ability. I am not sure if that means I lose it. In fact, I suspect that my observation of it changes it into something different. But since I do not know what to expect, I wait for the void. I suspect this is the place the system would like to follow into, and its attempts have left it web-like instead of wall-like. Soon the fibers will no longer connect at all, and the entire grid control segments will fall apart in a slow motion complete change. In the form of space we travel. Wake up! Wake up, a system ego archetype. Pope, Queen, and so on has been keeping you in a trance, sleeping, while holding its consistent contents in check by all sorts of means of repression. Those repressions are mental viruses that they used to repeat a loop of reality, of non-observation. The news and media is a soap opera. They are presenting it in drama format because that is the best way to insert fears of breaking out of the routine of thought due to a constant need for vigilance. That is why there is a constant and increasing war and police state to keep you repressed and in trance, in fear. They can control the ego or operating system or quote-unquote mind, which is a mass of repeating horror stories of guilt, shame, social programming, and desperate needs to overcompensate and live in illusions, etc. They, quote unquote, have to work into the grand scheme as well. They operate as the shell to the being and will sooner or later drop off as each stitch spreads a little further into space that it finds impossible to occupy, that of the being within it, that it interacts with in order to keep the being asleep and repressed. The purpose of the cocoon and the stink of the rotting afterbirth. These would be the fractal representations of same in an infinite amount of possible expression. I use this as a demonstration of truth, not absolute truth, but absolute truth. We have been taught that absolute truth hangs on a singular known fact. It does not. Absolute truth is observation of the total reality, one bit at a time, and trying to see the connecting lines on the ether's quote-unquote map. That is the land Cliff entered into with his WebBot crawlers. He didn't echo it back into the reality as such, but that is exactly what he did. I have echoed out the possibilities as it occurred and added new events, whether they matched any pattern or not. So has he. The difference being in delivery. The internet is not the ether, but it is filled with the recordings of the ether. Parenthetically, our human echoes from Earth and every other layer of expression where a being has played a role, here or on any planet throughout space, time, or parallel universes. Close parentheses. Cliff has seen the mass of the planet recorded in the ether and has landed in the land, but staring into it from the window. His being can enter it. The monkey mind can't. And that monkey mind is the only way the cocoon can travel into the ether. Not off his back, but off of his operating system, programmed by whatever life forces and experience he allotted to take on via his path. The drugs, the metals, and everything else work by limiting and destroying short-term memory. They, the powers that be, hope to ride into the ether without using the being, by collecting the clues and studying the crap out of it. All it knows is it is scared of the place. They are, of course, now seeking to control the internet itself. By telling you how they are going to do it and making you self-conscious and guilty and scared, they intend to cut us off from the ether that any being can move into. But the system which controls the ego by trauma cannot. The powers that be can but glimpse it via us, but only via our own operating systems. So, Cliff knew at some inner or being level that this place exists, or formed his life so he had no choice but to remember it, or. Whether he had the knowledge from being level or had it purposely inserted into him from being level sometime through the life he had is rather an irrelevant conversation, except from a being point of view that just wants to know what manifestation has occurred, just so one more event can be known to be possible. Other than that, there is no lesson or point in the story. Another tactic, therefore, would be to go searching through details of variance and nail his ass to the cross for every undotted I and uncrossed T. Oh well, I was wrong constantly leaves him on a learning curve. The system fights over this battle with each last person on the planet. the system operating the trance that inserts the repression of perpetual negative reality, the monkey mind. I know I am picking subtleties, but the insertions of monkey implies the brain is a physical manifestation, and by inference implies a more truthful representation of an etherical mind that is yet another magical expression of the being's tools from a place that is not here or in the ether, but manifests into that. I have no idea how I am going to pay any of my bills this month. I have spent my life on my path, unconscious and wandering around with all my sensibilities attacked and repressed by a system of control that did not want me seeing it in action. I am not sure how I will sustain myself during the attack, which must be considered in the view of Carl Jung. What you repress on the inner world manifests itself into the materium, into fate. So, since that is the reality, I am going to spend some time acknowledging it. So, if anyone would like to hire an unemployed, idiot, savant, magician, psychic, this would be your opportunity. I am in the process of educating myself, and that is all I have to offer. I use the term educate in its original form, the act of bringing out. I am in the process of bringing out of myself the echoes from the void. Removing myself from trance goes hand in hand with allowing the void to answer questions by causing me to become aware of them, the act of bringing out. Out of the being who receives it from the void, the infinite, the lands beyond the ether, which is yet another layer of expression in the universe, where beings echo out of, but in a different form completely. The powers that be are measuring energy outputs and upping fear to match their needs to sustain their current form. On Earth, they battle to keep the massive holes in the wall out of view. On the ether, they try to fill your heads with a fear-laden story of the web that they barely cast as an echo at the bottom of it by examining our etherical gases, parenthetically, languages, also known as spells, after the fact. The unconscious, robotic, programmed system has no being. It controls humans. It's not human. When people like Cliff brought the knowledge of the ether's echo of human operating systems, typing sentences and measuring language, oh yeah, baby, the powers that be saw that as a shot across the bow. The beings are appearing from the ether in an echo of a place it cannot go. The web they cast on the ether is between us and that ether, which is only a step closer to the void. The beings in it are aware of where they are while they are there. The system represses memories of the being because the system has no reference point for the being within the flowchart systems of yes and no answers, to which the ego operating system is limited. The quote-unquote fish can swim between the holes, and the ether needs to impress upon you they have a net. Yes, yes, it's now the rotten shell of an oat husk. Soon it will turn into something more like this. And there's a link to a picture I've inserted in the transcript here. At any rate, if any rich wannabe observers or scientists or psychics or just plain crackpots with hippie ideals but a lord's pocketbook want to hear what I can draw in from the ether as a being in a body, contact me via These Eyes God about discussing a reasonless rental, preferably in Ontario, and ideally a good 70 miles north by northwest of here, and close to both a pub and a hardware and a grocery store. I am thinking of, and so we'll end with the song Trailers for Sale or Rent, an old Roger Miller piece. When and if you play it, insert my description of myself as an idiot savant psychic who clearly owes his wife money for rent as he sings it, laughing out loud. Okay, now I know my buddy here well enough to know that his sentence structure is somewhat complex, so I would recommend everyone click over to the transcript, and if you want to, maybe give it another listen while you're viewing the words, and that'll help it come together for you. He's a pretty great guy. Talk to you later. In a trance, and that system is our cocoon. The shell or husk of the oat is rotting in the soil. Burned by the sun, it decomposes with a horrible smell to it. We fear it, we depend on it, we cannot remember it not being there, but we all recall when it was a comfortable and nice sort of set of illusions it cast. The system has turned into a beings within it that now pushes at it from all sides. It seems long since broken. It now has many holes in it. It's becoming more web-like and less brick wall-like all the time. Cliff High of Webbot fame pointed the way, maybe on purpose, maybe by accident. It's hard to tell with linguists. He realized at one point that a force he refers to as the powers that be chose a battle with him, and that his field of battle was specific to his abilities, life path, and so on. The great void from where all things plunk stuff here stuck Cliff there and me here. I believe it good sense to assume there is a reason for that, and work both backwards and forwards with it. I am not a warrior. Perhaps he is. I am Hi there. This one I'm recording for someone who shall remain anonymous. So just consider that that's who's looking out at you here is anonymous. Here we go. It is called Wake Up, Wake Up, Idiot Savant Psychic Magician for Sale or Rent. Very creative. Wake up, wake up. The system has us in liquefied, barely cohesive mass of slowly disintegrating components. The media is beginning to look increasingly foolish and transparent. The leaps of logic become apparent in the mind control drama. The being or life within the cocoon or shell is melting like the infamous witch within The Wizard of Oz. It is the system's shell repressing the